Hello everyone, my name is Kevin Hashimoto, the founder of Good To Go. We started back in 2012. We're Guam's first restaurant delivery service. So back in maybe 2011, we took a family trip to the Philippines, and anyone who's ever been to the Philippines will know we got stuck in traffic. And while being stuck in traffic, we saw different restaurants doing deliveries, and it was just an idea. I thought that would be really cool. Came back to Guam and we were watching Walking Dead when it was still really popular, and I was like, it would be really awesome to have Tony Roma's delivered right when we start the show, and it'll be here midway, and that's kind of how it started. And I asked a friend, like any other cool idea, like, hey, what do you think about this? And ideas led to conversations, would led to more research, would led to the business getting started. So the main platforms we use online for marketing and to drive traffic would definitely have to be our website, our new app, as far as marketing, Facebook, Instagram, email marketing, text marketing, and push notifications. When Good To Go started out, we definitely needed a lot of resources, but we necessarily didn't have the budget to pay for those resources. Just by quick research online, you'll quickly find there's a lot of tools out there that are already made for you, and you don't necessarily need to create or start something brand new. There's usually services out there that are usually free or relatively affordable to get started with. I was probably 20, 21 years old when I first had the idea for Good To Go. Dropped out of college, had no money in the bank, and just had this really cool idea that I wanted to see if it was possible or not, and kind of helped justify me not going to school. After a few conversations with mentors, and they just highly recommended joining an association if there was anything like that. So after doing some research, we realized there was an association for delivery services out in the United States. So that year, I flew out and attended the conference. That changed everything for the business. Like, we scrapped everything we did prior to that. The financials we had, the contracts we had, the protocols we had were completely revamped. And talking to people with more experience in the business that we were trying to pursue just gave us years worth of, I guess, a head start on I guess, a learning curve. Through that conference and joining that association, we realized we didn't have to build our own website. We didn't have to build all these things because there were services out there already for that. Imagine if you thought you had to design and build your own delivery bag, your own thermally insulated delivery bag, but there are businesses out there that's what they do. They're proficient at it, they're great at it. So instead of us designing our own delivery bag, we just outsourced it. When we first started Good To Go back in 2012, we spent a year worth of business planning and sourcing everything, putting everything together: uniforms, the website, the delivery bags, the logo, the contracts. And when we finally locked in our first 4 restaurants, which they were Denny's, Capricciosa, Tony Roma's, and Simply Food, we were like, okay, cool, this is day 1. We turned on the website and nothing happened. Because for us, we thought everyone knew because we spent the last year building this, and it was our entire lives were kind of devoted to this business idea, and we thought everyone else would know when we turned on the switch, like, hey, the website's live. Not the case. It took a couple of days for the orders to finally come in. Getting approached by radio, I guess the radios, the newspapers, and magazines, and we took all the free publicity we could get. But to be honest, we couldn't afford radio ads, newspaper ads. That was just way too much. We couldn't. There's no way we would have been able to afford those things. So back then in 2012, Instagram and Facebook, well, it wasn't really Instagram, Facebook was the cheapest, most affordable, and to be transparent, it gave us the best return on investment when it came to spending marketing dollars. You could reach a lot of people spending a little bit of money on social media. And it took a long time for us to get traction in the market. We were just really early. This is when people were just starting to order online, and don't even start talking about an app, because people on Guam were using apps in 2012 like that. Everything we did in that 7 years was just engulfed by that first year of the pandemic. We couldn't keep up with the demand. Orders kept pouring in. It didn't feel real. We would do, I guess to put it into perspective, we would do the same volume we would do in an entire year in 1 month. And it continued to grow after that. And it was a different type of challenge compared to before. We were just trying to make revenue happen. Now we were just trying to keep up and grow with the demand. So it was a great experience to experience both sides. And then when the demand finally came in, we knew exactly how to execute and what we needed to do, from operations to marketing to handling issues, because with that much volume coming in such a short window, there's definitely going to be issues. And I think the 7 years during that time, prior experience, really helped us a lot handle that. When the pandemic hit last year in 2020, a big thing that made us different, a big thing, I guess, or a benefit that we had was the team that we had working with us at that time were experienced. Some of the employees and drivers I had during the time were with me more than 5 years. So that made the biggest difference, I think, going into the pandemic. There are several factors that make us different from our competitors. Probably the biggest thing is our customer service. We're always putting the customers top of mind. Customers can order through an app, a website, or our call center. We give them the option of paying through a credit card or cash, even though it's not as efficient doing it that way. It's an extra layer of convenience for our customers. We're always looking to expand and add on quality restaurant partners onto our list. We're the only delivery service right now that delivers into Anderson Air Force Base. Our drivers are all in uniform. We interview all of our drivers, background checks, to give our customers that peace of mind working with Good to Go. I think Guam's, like with most modern and up-and-coming technologies, we're a little bit a year or so or a couple of years behind like the United States. Like using apps as example, that was a big thing back in the States back in 2013, 14, and because our software provider already had that service for us to utilize, but there was no demand back then for us to do that. Fast forward to 2021, and because of the pandemic, I think Guam is in a perfect place, and that excuse that a lot of, I guess, businesses have that we are limited to our small population can't be used anymore because of the internet, because of worldwide shipping, because of all these things that there's these tools and resources we have today that we didn't have 10 years ago. It's a new world we're in now with e-commerce. So some of the issues we've experienced being here on Guam is Google Maps and geolocations. It's not as accurate as we would like it to be. There are some locations and addresses on Guam that don't show up on Google Maps exactly, so we're not able to use all those features on Google, but we're getting there. So the way we're overcoming that is we have to manually get that address, that physical address, and submit it to Google so they can add that on to the Google Maps. We are the first restaurant delivery service. We've experienced this market and economy change from year one, where restaurants literally laughed at the idea that people would order food delivered. Like, they really laughed, and like, really, you think people would do that? To now, restaurants are calling us to partner up with our platform. Back in 2012, we would call restaurants and would try to get the meeting with them. Now, I guess the benefit is more obvious than ever, that there's a demand for delivery. And we've been doing it the longest, and I think that's probably one of the most rewarding experiences I had last year. Speaking of restaurants that I spoke to in my year one, and then they saw that we were still doing it, they were really, really proud, and they were really excited to jump on. Like Shirley's, sorry David, I'm gonna call you out, man. We met him down in again, and he didn't think it was ready, or the market was ready to do that, and he had other concerns. The pandemic rolled around, and he was like, okay, seems like a good time for us to partner. So thanks, David. In the year of 2021, I think this is the easiest year to be an entrepreneur, because we have so many resources and tools that we could tap into and use that wasn't even possible 5 years ago. An example would be just like social media. Like, to attract or get exposure to that many people with a really limited budget, that would have been almost impossible back in the day. So I guess some tips that I would give someone starting out, or not even starting out, but looking to expand their business, would be, one, learn how to use YouTube. Because if you know how to use YouTube, you know how to learn all these other things. Like, it's really that easy. Like, how do I utilize social media? And there's a ton of videos. If you wanted to learn anything, and literally, if you have any issues or problems, you could just type that into YouTube and figure that out. Learning how to use social media is really important. I think learning how to sell is really important. And I think being on Guam, we're in a very unique spot in the world, where I think if as a whole we learn how to use social media, e-commerce more efficiently, we would be able to grow our local economy that way. Even if we were to go back 5 or 10 years ago, most businesses would need an office space, right? They would need to put a down payment, get the water, power, everything, all of that situated. But in today, you could run a business from home. Because of e-commerce and online platforms that we have access to, it's allowed us to, in the early days, sustain a business that was not profitable, that was not generating revenue. We would get 3 to 5 orders a day in the beginning, and that was tough. We were living off tips and trying to throw everything back into the business. It was really tough the first 3 years. It was like that. The first year, I couldn't afford a dispatcher and a driver, so I was taking orders, placing orders in my Honda Civic, driving standard, and delivering orders. Like, that's what we had to do when you have no money and you have this crazy idea you want to see happen. I would be lying to you if I told you I knew it was gonna get to this level. Like I mentioned earlier, I would never have thought we would be able to do hundreds of orders a day like this. This blew my expectations out of the water. It didn't feel real. From my perspective, seeing how our economy, how the consumers' behavior changed throughout the years, seeing how that's changed from barely using a website to that being one of our most used platforms to place orders, to people questioning and figuring out how to install an app, to utilizing an app now as one of our main ways of generating orders. It's definitely changing. Like, it's black and white for us right now, like, to see before to what's going on now with online ordering. Everyone is online. People spend more time on their phones than they do talking to people in person. So people are on their phones, and that's where you need to be to market your business.